Marlene was saying we really should have music, so it was just a random Isaac Hayes instrumental from a while back. Cool. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. Are you okay with taking minutes, Micah?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, cool. Well, why don't I put our agenda up real quick? There we are. Well, of course, that's not showing up at the moment. So let me put up the minutes from the February meeting first. And just to go ahead and, that's always in the way. There we go. We don't necessarily need to read through all of them or anything. Anybody have any, can we approve the minutes, or do people have any questions about anything in the minutes?
I think they look good.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes? Wave your arms wildly or something or other. Okay. Give me just a second here, and I should be able to get our agenda to show up. Okay. I want gallery view. And there it is. So here's an agenda. We can add additional things if we want to. Updates on several of the things we've been involved with. Update on the Art of Hosting event. It wasn't specifically ACRC involved, but I think 5 of us were there. So, maybe the main thing to talk about will be what do we want to be doing the rest of this year? Anybody want to add something or subtract something? Okay. I'm going to leave that. No, it's not letting me do that. Oh, well. So I'm going to stop the share since it's not a very complex agenda. So we can look at each other. How's everybody doing? Should we do a quick go around just to say hi and something interesting that's going on for you lately? Ramey, you willing to start us off? Then pick somebody?
Yeah, I'm not doing anything special these days. I did finish a research project for a review of a potential manuscript that I rejected, unfortunately. But that's about all that's been going on in my world.
Thanks for sharing. You want to
I accepted the review and the manuscript that I just did, right?
Good. Anything else you want to share, Laura?
How am I doing? I am okay, all things considered. I feel like I'm doing all the things, as many other people on this call probably feel. But I'm glad it's sunny, and it's nice to see you all and have this conversation. So I'll just stop with that. I think that's all right. Probably enough.
You want to pick somebody else?
Yes. How about Lacey?
Okie doke. I'm pretty okay overall. I feel like I'm doing a lot of racial justice thingies, so that's fun. I might go home this weekend finally. So I think last time I was home in Cincinnati was August. So excited to see the family potentially and give people Christmas presents and all that fun. So
nice. Who's next, Lacey?
How about Rebecca?
Thanks, Lacey. Hi, everyone. I'm just happy to be back with you all. I've missed a couple of meetings just due to kind of a busy schedule. Something really cool that I have gotten to see is we've had some student volunteers at the Athens City County Health Department vaccine clinics on Thursdays and Fridays for the last, well, I guess the past month, maybe over a month. And you guys, our health department is just doing such an amazing job at the clinics. And it's just been such a fantastic opportunity for our students. So it's been a real highlight for me for the last month or so.
Nice. Who's next? You want to pick somebody, Becky?
Sorry, Marlene.
Things are going well. The good thing is I just escaped right before this and did a quick walk around the block in the sunshine, and it was cold as heck. I didn't expect it to be so cold because when I see that sunshine, I think Miami or I think Los Angeles where it's warm. And then I got out there and I was like, oh, walk faster. But it was very invigorating. So I suggest everybody get out there in the sunshine for at least a little bit. Did wonders for my mood. You see, I'm wearing my happy spring colors as long as the sun's shining. I'm ready.
That's right.
And I think Brandon.
Thanks, Marlene. I'm doing okay. This month was a little exhausting, but I'm feeling better. And yeah, I went to Skyline Chili on Sunday. And for those who don't know, that's my favorite place in the entire world. I've only been there probably 3 times since this all started. So it was really nice. And my daughter literally said out loud, "This is so good." And it was amazing because if she didn't like Skyline Chili, it was going to be rough. So, so that started my week off right. So
Nice.
was I last, I think?
Vanessa.
Oh, Vanessa.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hi. I hope you're all doing well. There's nothing really new with me, just the usual, trying to go. I mean, I love the sun, so I'll say that. Sweet.
I'm going to
Mike,
hop
did you go
into.
yet? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'll just say things are going pretty well. We are in the midst of Student Senate's LGBT Pride Week at Ohio University. So if you happen to drive by or walk by College Green, you'll see numerous tiny LGBT-themed flags that the students have purchased and put out. And this is also Women's History Month. So we're all observing, celebrating, and respecting that. There's a lot of great things going on, including the chat with Hillary Clinton and Chelsea Clinton this afternoon. So if you are wanting to check out the Women's Center's website, I highly recommend it. Lots of good stuff going on. Hope everyone's doing all right.
Good. I had a chance on Sunday night. We have a neighbor who goes out and looks for salamanders. And apparently the first warm spring rain is the time to go. So Sunday night, it was drizzling. It was about 11 o'clock and it was 60 degrees. And there's a spot where the salamanders have to cross a road to get to the pond they want to go to mate. And I saw 25 salamanders and some frogs and little spring peepers and all kinds of cool stuff. So that was rather fun. Thanks to Nandini for that tip. Cool. Well, let's jump in then, huh? Update on the work with Athens City Schools and the book clubs being a big part of that. Marlene and Brandon, do you want to say anything about how your book club is going? And Lacey, you're in one as well. So it's the 4 of us. Marlene, what do you want to say about your first book club experience?
I mean, I've got Brandon kind of guiding everything, so that's fantastic. It went really well. I thought that people started to engage. We got that kind of warm feeling of we're a group working together, which I had some, maybe because they were all European Americans, I had some concerns, about how that would go, but they seemed to engage really, really well. So I think it was a really good start, and our second one is tonight, so we're excited.
Great. You want to add anything about that one, Brandon?
No, yeah, it's Marlene's great. I'm not leading Marlene. We're working together, so she's giving me too much credit. But yeah, it was really good. And we had another one yesterday with Rachel, who's also part of this commission. I will say from this book club compared to the last group that we did over the summer, the 2 groups I'm with seem much further along and ready to do more. I felt not that the summer groups weren't, but I think there's some concepts that summer groups had to figure out where this group is. Some of them have already read the book and are just wanted to be in a space to talk about with people. So that was really exciting that, like Marlene said, everyone just seems really engaged and really ready to talk about race and equity. So
Cool. What about you, Lacey?
It was nice once again in doing this work. It's a lot of the same faces to see some people that I have not really been involved with before. It was also good to see that some of those people were at the event last night for Art of Hosting as well. So that was nice. And it was also nice to see some people that I do know from various things, but not necessarily in this capacity. So to see them interested and feeling like this was important stuff to do.
Yeah, great. Our Sunday group has, so there are 4 groups. Our Sunday group has Lacey and Tammy, Tucker, and I leading because we have 13 participants, so we have a little bigger group. And our group also has, there are, with Tammy and Lacey and a couple of others, there's 4 or 5 people of color in our group. So that's different than the summer where virtually everyone was white. But yeah, I thought it was a good start. So we'll see. This week we'll dig in a little deeper, I hope. So we have 4 groups: Monday night, Tuesday late afternoon, and then Sunday morning. And it's pretty much all community people, community and university, but as opposed to school system people. I'm not aware of any school system folk this round. And it says funding update, but I can actually weave that in right here since it's all about book club. The funding for this is coming partly from Athens Area Mediation Service and partly from money that Brandon raised. Yay! With his fundraiser a while back. And we do have a commitment from the city of Athens for $1,000 that'll come through the Athens Community Relations Commission. And then I've also applied for $1,000 from the Athens Foundation. So with all those, we shouldn't have to use much more than $1,000 from Brandon's fund, which will leave some extra money in there for the next projects, which I'm pleased about. That was kind of the impetus for that, is realizing, we could just use all that money up right now, and maybe it'd be better not to do that. So anybody have questions or thoughts about book clubs?
I wanted to double check to make sure I didn't miss. Book clubs are its own distinct topic from the Athens City's school updates that are also on the agenda here, right?
Yeah, there'll be a little bit more to say about Athens City School, but because this round of book clubs actually isn't Athens City School. So yeah, I jumped down to that quickly, and I've always associated those, but at this point they're actually really separate. So, and the other thing I'll say is it's an interesting range. I mean, the ages are probably from 20 to 75. There's a couple people who are even older than I am. And, from AmeriCorps volunteers to the mayor to number of university people to number of nonprofit folks and people who've done a lot of racial equity work and people who have not. So I like that personally, that range. So cool. In terms of Athens City Schools system update, that's probably just me. I did have a good conversation with Tom Gibbs yesterday. Some of the things we discussed are just in the works, so it's probably inappropriate for me to share too much of it. But he remains very committed to this and has been nudged into being part of a leadership team statewide. So it's nice that Southeastern Ohio is getting recognized as a place where this is happening. He's still very committed to working with us and what we can do. They are trying to, last year they were going to work with Teaching Tolerance to have workshops for all of the staff. And they're looking into trying to do that this coming year instead, since it got canceled last year. And I don't remember the new name, but Teaching Tolerance just changed their name, which some of us are pleased to hear, since tolerance always seemed like an awfully low bar. And they have maybe a more appropriate name now. And they're talking about doing workshops with all the teachers, and then follow up more intense work with the social studies teachers. And perhaps our focus would end up being with the classified staff, which will be a good challenge for us to figure out. I think some of our work with the classified staff went well last year, and some of it was a struggle. So I still owe at least Lacey and Brandon a CASA meal as duty pay for that. So Learning for Justice is the new name. Okay, that's
I put the link in the chat too to their website if people are interested in seeing it.
great. That's really good. It describes what they do really well, I think. So good. So that's the update. They're still on board. And this plan that Tom and I discussed, well, what I presented and he liked, was that we might have 2 tiers of book clubs offered this summer for teachers. One would be for teachers who have already done book clubs. And maybe it would include some of these community people as well. So it'd be people who've already done the stamped book club, then having a chance to do another round of something, whether we do another 8 weeks or we do something a little shorter. And what we do for a book is all open to discussion. And then a second tier, the entry-level tier, which would be people who have not done any book clubs with us yet. And, all of us as facilitators, I'm sure we'll discuss that, whether we want to stick with stamped, which we've been feeling so good about, or whether we want to branch into a different book for that group. So any thoughts or comments about any of that? Questions? Lacey?
John, since we've only done one book club, is it too late for somebody to join? Would you say they'd need to join next time?
I think I got an inquiry about that yesterday, and basically I said, if you let me know right away, we will get you in. And particularly if they're joining the Sunday group, and we'd have to check with the facilitators if they want to join either of the Tuesday groups. And I guess in my mind, it's now too late to join the Monday group.
Okay.
Would you agree with that, Brandon? You've met twice.
Yeah, there's been one-on-ones and then three people talking. And, yesterday we actually started reading the book and talking about the terms. And it seemed there's a trust, I think, that's earned. And it's hard to bring somebody in to that, and who and losing that time. And there's never enough time in these book clubs, I guess, is the thing. And so for someone not to feel safe when a new person comes in, I'm definitely with, Monday being too late.
Are you, Marlene, as well? Are you okay if somebody wanted to join today?
I think today would still be okay. Don't you think, Brandon? We just did that, and we had someone join us late on Monday. So I think if someone still joined today, that would be fine. I think past today, where we really start to get in there, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah. And our second Sunday group will be Sunday. We're behind you all. So that'd be okay with me for them to join.
Okay.
But then not after
Sunday, and if not, suggest they do it next time.
Yep. Let them know we'll do something in the summer and figure it out together. Cool. Anything else about book clubbies? There's not very much to report about Athens County Fair. That group's been kind of figuring out what to do and who has energy to do it and what seems possible. But there has been some work of making inquiries on the state level to see if there aren't some mechanisms that would help us from there. That's really all to report about that, unless somebody has questions.
During the Black Summit, right, there was a call for the creation of an NAACP group, and folks started to send names. And one of the things that the speaker talked about was the fact that they can help tremendously with that. And so it might be worthwhile for us to kind of connect and see what has been done, and is there, need for more, and how could we help with that?
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
With the work that we do.
yeah. I think that has, at the moment, doesn't have as much momentum because there was no fair this past year, and it'll be coming back up on people's radar more. Is there a particular local person who's coordinating that effort about the NAACP, or?
So I was at the Black Summit recap meeting yesterday, and so they've taken that on. So I think at the meeting we had maybe 24 or 25 people already, and I was just in that space. So I know JW Smith was talking about that. So I don't know, Dr. Lewis, I can follow up to make sure, but there was momentum yesterday about that. So that should be happening, I think, fairly soon. So it'd be great. Yeah. Cause fairs, Governor DeWine has allowed fairs and parades and everything to happen. So there's a good chance it will probably be happening this fall or August. So
yeah, they'll be going full steam ahead, I'm sure. And there was talk of our ad hoc group about going to this March meeting, and which I think is tonight, but people decided not to try to do that. And partly they're going to be all full of their plans about trying to have an in-person fair. So, but it's not been dropped for sure. So that's good to know about the NAACP link as well. Great. Well, what about folks who went to the Art of Hosting event? We could probably talk about that for a couple of hours, but maybe for people who weren't there, the summary is there were maybe two goals, and one was to teach people more or something, teach people about the techniques of Art of Hosting. And then the second was to have a conversation about racial equity. And maybe the third is to that the existing Art of Hosting group has been largely almost all white people, and so to change that. Brandy's and now Brandon have been the two people who've been involved in some Art of Hosting things previously. So there was a bit of a process to figure it out, that the planning team would take a stand and say, we need to have 50% representation by people of color. And that actually happened, kind of in the heavy, a lot of outreach in the last week, I think, but the call was at least half people of color. So people who were there, so that's the background a little bit. And it's the Athens County Foundation that's kind of been the driving force behind that project, the Art of Hosting project.
Just one more thing about the kind of background is that this was, there's 4 kind of parts of this. I don't know if I would think of it sort of as a workshop. It's the typical, but anyway, there's 4 kind of pieces of this process. And last night was number 2. So first was like a month or so ago, we did kind of circle practice, and that was step 1. Step 2 was this like World Cafe process. And then there'll be 2 more meetings, each like a month or so from each other. And number 3 is on using open space processes, which is like a different kind of design for having meetings. And then the 4th one is Pro Action Cafe. And so the whole series of conversations kind of build on each other from like the circle, which is really about just like getting to know people and kind of building relationships, to Pro Action Cafe, which is very action oriented. So we're on step 2 of this 4-step process.
Thank you, Laura. Folks who were able to go want to say a little something about the experience?
I think it was a nice opportunity to connect. I think I really appreciated the 50% people of color representation, because it always seemed relevant in sparking some of the most memorable moments of conversations, whether they be in the full group or in the smaller groups. It was the diversity of perspectives, including multi-generational perspective sharing, that really seemed to enrich the conversations.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'd echo what Micah said. It was being in a lot of those spaces and those conversations. It's never like that, or it's like this. There's only like 9 of us. And it's half. But like when you have 30 and 30, it was interesting. And like the intergenerational was really nice. And I don't know, it felt it did feel like everyone was being heard in some way for the most part. I don't know if everyone else had that feeling, but it felt like instead of just one person of color giving their story, there were multiple people. And then there just felt like there was some power, some parity, I guess, just for a moment, hey, and then people were telling their stories and other people, and it didn't have to be translated to a group. It was like, yep, I know exactly what you're saying. There was a young lady who spoke yesterday, I think a really powerful statement. And every person of color, I think, totally understood what she was saying and probably wants to say the same thing, but hasn't had the space to do that. And so it was really nice. And I will say there's a moment where I think the process was challenged, and that was interesting where we had to work through that. And I would normally expect that moment to just be like, nope, this is what we're doing. And I think the group kind of worked through it, the best way and allowed different voices, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Marlene, you want to throw something in?
Just some of the same, just, how amazing it was to be in groups where everyone was a person of color. And it wasn't just the same folks that I work with, or, it's just a broad group of people, and to feel heard. And it was just incredible. And I was there on the first one. And it's for some of you who were there, I didn't feel that way after the first one. I was, in fact, just kind of considering whether that was for me or not at all. And so this was a totally different experience. And I'm very grateful. I've written to them to say thank you for doing this, right? And I know that Brandon, you were behind that, and John, you too. But I wanted to make sure that they hear that, yes, this is what we want. And please carry on, because we need that. We need those spaces. We need to feel that those things are for us. And we won't if there isn't, except for the usual suspects, which is what we kept saying, right? We want that to be broader. And that felt like it was doing the right thing.
Yeah. How about you, Lacey?
I will also say that I had that thought with the first experience, kind of being like, I'm not sure how helpful this was, but I did enjoy yesterday. Whenever I think about the idea of sitting on a Zoom call for 3 hours, I can't say that I'm immediately too into the idea, but it didn't feel like we were there for 3 hours. So that was good. So, but yeah, I agree that the one person who spoke up and talked for quite some time was definitely interesting to hear, and then interesting to kind of see how that unfolded, both from people of color and people who I think were kind of attempting to step in and use their privilege for good to be allies in that situation and sort of say, like, maybe this is what you had planned, but maybe we need to like think about what's actually happening now instead of following the plan.
Laura? I guess a bunch of us were there, weren't we?
Yeah. I'm just really glad to hear all of these conversations here, because I left it kind of wondering how people felt about it and what it was like. I personally really enjoyed having conversations with folks I had never had the opportunity to have these conversations with before, even people who I knew from some other context, but hadn't been able to talk about and hear their kind of feedback and stuff. So I appreciated that a lot.
Great. Yeah, I think I had similar experience. I think the other thing I'll add is I really appreciated working with Kelly and Maurice, the facilitators, and particularly their patience when things went in a different direction. They didn't interrupt. They didn't try to put us back on schedule or anything like that. They really worked with the group and really went for some kind of consensus among the 60 of us to move forward in a particular way rather than trying to impose something. So I thought that was really great. And the next one is in about a month, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Yeah.
John,
Micah, you've got your hand up. What's going on?
Thank you. Sure. I was just wanting to reflect on the point that one of the speakers yesterday during the Art of Hosting event really stressed her perspective about the importance of having young people involved in these conversations and initiatives around racial equity as much as possible, and gave, I think, a really thought-provoking analogy in at least one setting about the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix, and that some of us older people were very satisfied and content with Blockbuster because we could get our DVDs and VHS, and would think that perhaps people would be dreaming too big to say, oh no, I want something even more convenient at my fingertips. I want it streaming on my phone from my computer, and that that by getting more young people involved in these conversations, we'll be able to overcome some of our, I'm saying "are" because I was definitely made to feel like you don't understand what young people are looking for around racial equity anymore, and we need even those conversations to happen more frequently. And it made me reflect on my experience as an undergraduate at OU when I was able to be a member of this commission. And I don't know that we currently have any students or traditionally aged students folks on the commission, and just wanted to check to see if that's accurate and how long it's been since we've had that voice.
Well, Vanessa is a student, and she's a graduate student, but.
Me too. I'm sorry, I didn't even count myself as a graduate student. I suppose I'm thinking really about this. When they say younger, I'm imagining that they're talking about like 18 to 23 or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't get to count you anymore. Damn. I don't, there've been a few people, I don't think we've had anyone as no, that's not true. There was one person as an official commission member since you.
Well, we had Jay, and he was a high school student, and then we had Ruby, and she was a college student.
Thank you. Yeah, I forgot.
So I can think of two in the time that I've been involved.
And then there was another young woman whose name I think was also Laura, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, Laura Olbers.
Yeah, So she was a little bit older, but still in her 20s, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think another point that I took from that conversation, Micah, was not that we need to bring young people into the conversation, but that these conversations are already happening among young people, and we need to make connections. We need to connect our conversations.
Right.
I think Marquise made that point pretty clearly near the end.
Not just including them in our conversation, but joining them where they are. Yeah,
right.
That's a really good thing to be thinking about. Thank you, Micah. Anybody else have something else to add, or a question from those who didn't get to go?
There's just a comment on the student thing, because this comes up in other groups that I'm in. I'm sure there's this whole thing of how do we add a member? Like, I'm just going to throw that. You could just invite a student here who's not a vote. I don't know if you vote in this commission or anything like that, but where they're just on, like how I'm here right now, and you're all smarter than me, so you probably thought of this, but I just have to say it out loud in case you didn't. But like, that's just something that happens a lot. It's like, oh, we can't bring somebody in because then one person has a term off. It's like other things. I've just had people just show up, and you have that voice in the room. And then because I really love that, I just, the students that we're working with at the high school and stuff, they're just so much more advanced than I was at their age, and that whole thing about like Netflix versus, Blockbuster is great. They guarantee they'll have Titanic, and that's it, but any other movie you go, it's rented out and you can stream it. And that's such a great point, because you never really think further than where we are. And we always think, well, if the kids in high school only knew that high school really doesn't matter, but that never happens. No parents ever can translate to their kids. Otherwise high school would be great, because they would realize that. And so there's a point where we get older, we get older and we just forget that. And we know what's best for them. We don't really meet them where they are. And how does this group and other groups break that? I think just having them here, bringing those ideas, like, yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could stream something, like,
Mhm.
yeah, it would be great. I could watch it anytime, so, but just that idea, because I've been in some spaces where that gridlock happens and people don't realize that, hey, we can invite anybody to these spaces. They just can't vote or have certain rules, but their voice in here would help a lot of the conversations. So,
Yeah. Really good point. Yeah, you and Rami are here without having official status, but we could do a lot more with that. And it even makes me wonder if we ought to sponsor some kind of an event, that's specifically for young people to be together and talk about these issues and have us be there to listen.
I mean, maybe we could start by following the Bobcats for Change and seeing what they're doing and connect with them in some way, because that's a really big organization of students right now. They're not the only one, but they're kind of an active one right now doing some stuff.
Yeah. Are any of us connected with them at all yet?
Adjacently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
kind of know what they're doing. I know who is in charge of them and stuff, but not closely connected.
Yeah. Okay, a lot of good ideas. So I was thinking the additional thing we'd spend time on is thinking, and we're already doing it. We segued nicely, is what do we want to focus on for this coming year? Is there anything we're doing we want to get rid of? I'll just leave it at that. And what additional things do we want to be doing as a commission to do what we can do around these issues?
Do we want to do any sort of follow up with the sort of larger event that we did that had like 90 some participants? I'm not saying we should, I'm just sort of thinking out loud, but one possibility would be to kind of do some sort of part 2 of that or some other leadership gathering or something. I almost feel like the Racial Equity Coalition is a better host for that, but it is something that we have done in the past and could think about, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And we certainly don't have to do things by ourselves. We can do that.
Right.
Working more closely with Racial Equity Coalition. Other thoughts? Or more thoughts on that?
I would say in a totally different direction. I am perpetually worried about our international students. There's like shrinking opportunities for them over the summer because of budget issues at the university. And I think that on top of kind of general levels of racism that exist in the area, there might be another population to sort of think about how to reach out to and work with and support again.
Yeah. What you thinking, Lacey?
That's actually where I'm just going to go. I was going to ask if anybody had heard anything about a virtual international street fair or some sort of event or events related to that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have not heard anything.
Okay.
Vanessa, Marlene, Micah, do you know anything about that? Is that in the wind or not?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Oh, boy.
I haven't. I can think of a committee I could put out some feelers to ask if they've heard anything. But yeah, I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. Well, if they need somebody to provide a Zoom platform and some technical help, I think we could certainly offer that.
Does anyone happen to know, is it International Student Faculty and Services or International Student Union? I think a lot of groups.
I think it's ISU.
Okay.
Does it? I'm not positive about that.
Thanks. I'll start there.
Thanks, Micah. Let us know what you find out and how we can help. Others, what would you like to see us do? Want us to keep focusing on book clubs and do more of that? Things with young people, things with international students?
To those last 2 points, I do think it would flow naturally for us to create some space to hear from international students about their experiences and their needs so that we can use that to inform whatever we may wish to do. And then similarly with youth, I think I would love to be, even if not, speaking from my own perspective, of a fly on the wall for some of these conversations that would help me understand different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So discussion facilitation or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Middle school and high school combined, one-day racial equity, anti-racism leadership institute. Interesting idea.
Good idea.
Could
Sounds
have
powerful.
a track for teachers and another for students. Yeah.
There really feels like there's a moment going on at the Athens City Schools, but like it's also just on those wooden stilts, and then someone could just come and just break them out. Because if you really look at it, there's not a lot of people making a lot of things happen. There's a lot of excitement around it, but facilitating is another thing. So if Miss Hall just doesn't do the Andrew Davis or Jackson Davison Club and stuff like that, I think a lot of the connections will go. So if there's a way this group can support that, I don't know if, just making it more, we have our class and everything like that, but I think another step could be helpful, like what Marlene just put in there, something like that, just really make it, allow people to think bigger of what could be, how they fit in that. So for this year, I think might be a good track for this group that I'm not part of. So there's some homework for you.
Yes, you are. Once you show up the third time, you're
Well, I thought I got paid to be here, so that's why I showed up.
The check is in the mail.
Yeah, in the mail. Okay. Red Lobster dinner. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, we'll yeah, that's right. I'm India for Casa already, so might as well add a Red Lobster to the deal. Brandon and I know Angie Hall a little bit. Does anybody else know Angie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It might be interesting to have a conversation with her about some of these ideas, invite her to our next meeting or something like that, or meet with her separately, either way.
Yeah, I think Andrew's point about the longevity and stability of the anti-racism work in the Athens City Schools is a really important point. And that's, it's not our role as a commission to ensure that Athens City Schools does certain things or whatever. But I think as we have been such a partner with them, that it would be helpful for us to support that work. And I don't know what exactly it looks like, but I like the idea of promoting more opportunities for teachers, so if Mrs. Hall doesn't want to do that anymore, Coach Hall is like, no more, I can't do that anymore, I'm doing something else, then is there somebody else at the middle school who would take it on?
Yeah.
Does it have the support of the principal? Is there some sort of training that happens for teachers there beyond, one teacher thinking it had been two teachers, but, thinking that that's the path forward.
Yeah.
It is really fragile.
Yep.
I really like the idea. Oh, I'm sorry, Laura.
I was just going to say the same thing about the course that we're doing at Athens High,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I'm also convinced that the model that we have is not sustainable. And I think it needs to be integrated better into the high school if they really want it to become a thing,
Yeah.
I really like the idea of inviting Angie Hall to the next meeting or a future meeting first to talk about the idea for the Institute. I really love that idea, and also to talk about maybe sustainability for her projects. And I'm also wondering if any of you know through your work at the high school, if there is maybe a point of contact from the high school that we could invite as well. If we thinking middle school, high school focus, maybe there's a representative from the high school also that might make sense to invite.
Yeah.
To a sustainability / future project conversation.
Yeah. It might be interesting to invite Chad Springer, the principal.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Who's been very supportive. And it's been Tom Gibbs more, partly just because of their roles, but Chad's been great, and it might be great to have a lot bigger conversation with him about how this work gets more embedded in the schools.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is just another person, so that's not necessarily the solution, but is Allison Rickett coming back to the high school after this year? Do we know? Like, she was on a leave to do this other work, which is amazing. I don't know if she's coming back, but if she is, she would be the obvious point of contact at the high school.
Yeah. We just had we'll put this on the video for that. We had a panel of students of color come and talk to our high school students on yesterday, because this semester's class is all white students. So they were sharing about their experience. And one of the questions was there anyone as a white ally you could turn to? And Allison Rickett was the name who came up for a couple of them.
Yeah. She's
not there this year, but I'll reach out to her and ask her about that, if she's coming back or not. Anybody else sitting on a wild and crazy idea you've been hesitant to say out loud?
Not too wild and crazy. And it's one follow-up from before that I'll just drop in the chat. Just as we've been in different environments where folks are coming to conversations about racial equity with different levels of experience, I've heard on multiple occasions folks wanting to know how they can get involved and where the work is already happening. And I think we've actually collected some of this information as a result of the anti-racism leadership gathering to get a sense of what kinds of anti-racist and racial equity initiatives and groups are already underway in the Athens area and where the gaps are in terms of focus or foci. And I truly don't know what that would yield, but it would be interesting, I think, to have some way of giving people a little more of a sense of where all this work is happening and where they can get plugged in.
Yeah. I think the Racial Equity Coalition of Athens is the starting point. That should be the starting point for folks, because they're, representatives from all these different organizations. And I think that one of the things that it's happening with the coalition is the creating a kind of a list of organizations and people and places. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's happening through that coalition.
There's a meeting on Friday, so we might want to bring that up and find out where that stands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
But
absolutely, Micah. I think that's a real need. There's so much scattered all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Brandon.
No, I was cutting you off. Sorry. I think an external push to the Racial Equity Coalition, though, would help that, because I do know a lot of the discussion with the Racial Equity Coalition is doing stuff. And so the doing stuff gets in the way of making sure we're listed. Shane at the foundation's done a pretty good job of listing out some things, but I think if, it could be cleaned up, because what you're asking for, Mike, it 100% makes sense. It should be at the Racial Equity, but I don't think there's a group of people just doing that. We're all doing things and it's there, but getting it in a way that's, this is the schools, this is this, instead of sending it to a defunct, Facebook page or something like that, making sure it's really, because that happens all the time. We have old information and, and then the person's just not going to search for it. But maybe a request from this group or an ask might be something that, so it's not one of us just going in there, hey, we should do this. It's, hey, there's a discussion at the Community Relations Commission about this and a need, and, and then how can we assist that group as well? Because there's people who just do this, they just need the information, God bless Shane, but she's just overworked over there and she's doing the best she can. And, but it's a lot of information that's out there that I think could be one full page, that's just hey, here you go. And the link that works.
Seems like it'd be a great job for a AmeriCorps person or a graduate assistant or,
Yeah, I mean, we talked about there being a student intern at the Athens County Foundation for racial equity as a possibility. That was one of these wild ideas that got put on a list of ideas, and I didn't follow up with it after that, so I'm not really sure if that's something they're pursuing or not. But yes, that does seem like the kind of thing that somebody ought to be dedicated to as a task.
Yeah. Marlene, are you? Yeah, go ahead.
I wondered if we would also be able to connect with Mary Nally about engagement, right? If there's a way that maybe a PACE student or something like that could be gotten to do that and update and have that regularly. And it dovetails with the mission of her office. So everybody wins. And then you know that it's on their job list, for whatever student they have.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, they do have community-based internships. I'm happy to reach out to Mary if you'd like.
Oh, would you? That'd be great. Great.
Very swamped, though. I will tell you, we've been talking about working on a couple projects together, and we're postponing that till after April. So maybe that's not necessarily something that she really has to do a whole lot with, besides put somebody kind of in charge of that. But
right.
Just letting.
Yeah, I think so. I know they were doing some recruitment, so hopefully that's something that would just be like plugging someone in. But I respect that completely, and I'll make sure I respect her capacity around that when I contact her.
And do you see Brandon's comment? Courtney Lefebvre is also. She came to yesterday, and she's come to racial equity stuff. So she's in that same office. Cool. Well, we should start thinking about time. So one thing is our ongoing meetings. This is the first Tuesday of the month. I did check with Rachel, who was unable to come to this meeting, and she's the only one who's not here today, I think. And she said with advance notice, she can usually make first Tuesdays work. Should we just stick with that for April and May?
Is Dawn still on commission?
Oh, you're right, Dawn. Yes, Dawn. Yeah, Dawn's the other. Thank you. We can check with her, but should we plan on just doing the first Tuesday of April and May at least?
I like that. That works for me.
Then we can see what summer schedules look like after that. Let's do it.
I think it would not impact that, but isn't that first week the Easter week? Would that impact anybody's being off? I think it would only be like the Sunday and Monday, but
yeah.
Okay.
Probably not on Tuesday.
Okay.
Yes, and we do have to think about book clubs for that week as well, but that's a different topic. And Scott's saying we need to wrap up, which we're about to do. So we've got first Tuesdays for officers for ACRC. Get unmute yourself. Marlene has agreed to be co-chair with me. Woohoo! And Micah has agreed to be secretary. And Laura has agreed to be treasurer. So we're kind of official. We need a sergeant at arms, but we can deal with that at the next meeting. So good. I think we're good. Anybody have something else you want to throw in?
Yeah.
Oh, Vanessa, you did. I know. So sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly that for the next few months, I'm going to have to step down a little from the committee. I'm just dealing with some family issues right now, so I'm going to take a step back. But if you need me for anything, please let me know.
Will do. Are you thinking a leave of absence for a few months, or are you thinking more to? Okay, great,
yeah.
Great. We'll keep you in the loop and in our hearts. And good luck with all your family issues. So
thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for all the stuff you have been doing.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, well, I think we did well. Great to see everybody.
Thank you, John. Thank you for your leadership.